Hello, nerds! You are about to jump into the TV streaming portion of the most recent episode of The Week in Nerddom, as brought to you by me, Mr. Generally Nerdy himself. If you want to find the entire episode, then that episode exists in the top link in the description, unless you're not on YouTube, in which case youtube.com/generallynerdy is the place to go see that. Patreon.com/generallynerdy is the paywall, and generallynerdy.net, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's just get to the news, shall we? Okay, TV streaming is going to be very up and down, and I'm not going to apologize for it, but it just bear with me, alrighty? So we're going to start off in follow-ups. We actually have some really cool stuff in follow-ups. We're going to start off with a kind of a bummer note, I think. First thing in follow-ups for TV streaming is Y: The Last Man. Y: The Last Man has been canceled. There will not be a second season or any other seasons beyond the first over on FX. I have yet to watch this series, what they have so far. We're only about halfway through this first season, but they're not stopping the rest of the season. They will conclude the season proper, but they will not be picking up next year. So I have not heard great things about this, specifically because they took the things that made the comic book work and tried to adapt them to a weird modern sensibility that honestly not a lot of people buy into. There is approximately a third of the readership, maybe, that's a generous number, but approximately a third of the readership buys into the politics that they're trying to push. From what I understand, again, I have not watched it. This is just what I have heard from those who have so far. And it just, nobody's watching it because such a small minority of the audience cares about that particular social political narrative. We want to see the adaptation of the comic book. We want to see the things that the original writer intended for the story. We don't want to see some half-baked scheme to try and push a narrative that we don't care about. And I think that's what that boils down to. All right, so enough of the downer piece. We're moving right on to Pennyworth. Now, this is a series that I'm very interested in. I have not been able to watch it because I don't have Epics, but that is about to change. Not me getting Epics. I'm not going to pay for that, but it is switching streaming services. It will be picked up on HBO Max for season 3. So they're in the end of season 2 currently. Once season 2 concludes on Epics, it will then switch hands sometime in the next few months. I think it was actually 6 months from now, roughly, is when they're going to switch hands, and they're going to put season 1 and 2 on HBO Max. And then when season 3 comes out, it will be shortly after season 2 has been released on HBO Max. Season 3 will release directly to Netflix, and everyone can catch up on it. I'm very intrigued by this series, but again, have not been able to watch it for previously stated reasons. So if you are in the same boat, then hope is on the way. It is only a few months out. And then our last two follow-ups for this section both have to do with renewals. Titans and Doom Patrol both have been renewed for season 4, respectively. So Titans is in the middle of season 3 right now. I really hope season 4 can get us back onto a track that makes sense. I'm not a big fan of season 3 of Titans, but there's room to fix it. Let's just put it that way. And then Doom Patrol, I don't think Doom Patrol has done anything too terrible. I'm a little bit behind on that one. Either way, super excited for both of them because in spite of some of the things I disagree with in Titans Season 3, it is still one of the best comic book series on right now. That brings us to trailers. So we have some more reactions to do, some micro reactions, though we actually only have one reaction to do, and that is the Season 3 trailer of Harley Quinn. Again, from DC Fandom. If you have not watched season 1 and 2, you are missing out. This is a fair substitute for a couple of animated comic book series that we nerds are missing these days, not the least of which being the Venture Brothers. So if you were a big fan of Venture Brothers, you have a soft spot for Invincible in some sort of way, then Harley Quinn is definitely going to be right up your alley, as long as you are also a DC fan. I got to put that in there as well. But the season 1 and 2 were fantastic. The trailer for season 3 looks like they're going to be heading in that same direction. Kaylee Cuoco as the voice of Harley is not terrible. Not the greatest voice. Again, Tara Strong, you are my hero for that, but still a very good watchable show. This trailer just increases that hype level that much more and was delivered in such a hilarious way before they even get into the trailer. Just go click the link down in the description. You'll see what I'm talking about. It is 100% worth watching, and it definitely has me fired up for season 3. That being said, we are going to take a little bit of a break from the DC fandom experience from this past weekend, and we have a new announcement that is comedy related. Again, bit of a comedy nerd, so we're covering it. History of the World Part 2 is actually going to become a thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Mel Brooks did a movie years and years ago called History of the World Part 1. And now it's going to be turned into a series. The series is going to be on Hulu. Hulu has ordered 8 episodes for this first season, so presumably they were going to be working from season to season. We don't know how it's going to do, so on and so forth. So I do have one issue here, and that one issue is the comedy. So actually it's kind of 2 issues, but they both stem from the comedy. Brooks' style of comedy is so unacceptable for modern audiences. I really will be surprised if this goes into a second season, which breaks my heart because I love Mel Brooks. I think there are very few better comedic minds out there. Mel Brooks is a god amongst comedians. Easily said that way. And the other issue I have is the whole the funniest part about the fact that the movie was labeled History of the World Part 1 is that there wasn't going to be a Part 2. It was just a setup with no punchline and therefore comedy. Like that, yeah, that part doesn't sit so well with me. I do like to see Mel Brooks, even though he's pushing 100 years old these days. He's like 90 something, right? I'm not getting that wrong. I feel like he's like 93, 96, something like that. Either way, super excited to see what he can contribute to the conversation in his elderly age. And I mean, he's obviously not the only one in charge here. There is a team behind this series, but he is definitely involved, and I'm intrigued. In spite of the issue I have with the title, I'm definitely intrigued to see where this goes. Our next piece of TV streaming news has to do with, again, we're back in DC fandom. Our last 2 pieces for this section will be from DC fandom. This first one is Batman Caped Crusader. I can't remember if we covered this if it was even originally announced. There's been way too much time between and way too many things to talk about between then and now. So assuming we haven't talked about this yet, we did get a little bit of a tease. No idea exactly what the animation is going to look like, though we do have a little bit of a hint in that short that they did for the 75th anniversary of Batman, the black and white short. They did play some footage from that. Not the biggest fan of the character design for Batman, but we just need to talk about this Batman Caped Crusader real quick. This is going to be a new series from the creator of the original animated series from the 90s, Bruce Timm. So this sounds like they're going to be able to do the things that me watching the original animated series as an adult wish they could have done back then. As a kid, there was nothing better. Well, maybe the X-Men animated series. Maybe that one was better in my head at the time. But either way, this is still the definitive, to many, many people in my age group, this is the definitive version of Batman. So for them to be revisiting this, even if it is only a spiritual successor, is epic. And the fact that it is going directly to HBO Max means that they can, and it's also going to be geared towards people who grew up with that original animated series, means they're going to be able to do more things because censorship is not really an issue anymore. In the interview that we saw with Abrams and Matt Reeves and all of the other people involved, there was a hint that we are going to be getting a little bit more of a mature-oriented Batman. Language is going to be a thing. Violence is going to be a thing. We are going to be getting another definitive version of Batman, and that is exciting. I'm super excited about that. No word yet on who any of the voice casting is. Honestly, I'm hoping they go in a slightly different art direction than what we have seen from some of the promotional material. I don't like those ears. That's my one big gripe. I really hate those ears. If they can change that, then I'm 100% on board. If they don't change that, then I'm only like 99.999% on board. So either way, this looks like it's going to be amazing. And then our last piece of TV streaming news also has to do with Batman, though this one is a different beast entirely. This one is going to be geared towards preschool age children. It's going to be about Batman's vehicles, very specifically. It's called Batwheels. Batwheels is going to feature Ethan Hawke as the voice of Batman. We also have a source of contention. Let's just put it that way. So we are going to be getting a Robin in this. That Robin is going to be Duke Thomas. Now, here let's talk very briefly about Duke Thomas. Duke Thomas was technically, in a manner of speaking, a Robin at one point. In the DC fandom trailer, they say that he is the first African American to wear the Robin suit. No. Duke Thomas became a Robin during the We Are Robin story arc, where there were a multitude of Robins involved. Anyone wearing the Robin R was considered a Robin. This is a metropolitan city, Gotham, in which this is happening, so we have no way of knowing. He might be the first one to be acknowledged, the first African American to be acknowledged as wearing the R, but there's no way, because of the nature of that story, for us to say 100% that he is the first African American Robin. Also of note in that story is none of the We Are Robins really wore the Robin suit. They wore kind of things that resembled it. Some of them you could even argue were cosplaying as Robin. By and large, though, the only thing that quantified a Robin in that story was somebody wearing the R. Now, Duke Thomas is the Signal, who is a part of the Bat family and is definitely worth checking out. He has some very interesting powers. Also, the only member of the Bat family, as far as I can recall, because the Bat family is so huge these days, sometimes I forget who's in it, but the only member of the Bat family who actually has any sort of metahuman powers. So he's definitely a noteworthy character, and I just feel like the billing for who this character is being done all wrong. Now, is it bad that we have a Black Robin? 100% no. Don't care. Marlon Wayans, in a way, was the first Black Robin, but that's a whole other discussion. The thing that I'm taking issue with here is the way that this is being sold to the kids who are just finding out about these characters. And I'm 100% on board with identity and people trying to identify with the people on the page or on the screen or whatever the situation is. So if somebody feels like having a Robin of color is a thing that younger kids need to imagine themselves on the page, then, I mean, I feel like that's kind of broken logic, but I can see where that logic comes from. I don't really have a major problem with it. I do have a major problem with them billing him as the first. There's no way for us to know. And I've already covered that, and I'm rambling at this point. I'm interested with this series. I want to see this, even though it's going to be for preschoolers. It's very intriguing as to why they would do a series about the Batman vehicles, but still have actual, like, it's kind of like Cars for Batman, right? So in Cars, there were no humans, to my recollection. So if that's what this is, then how is there a Batman if the cars talk and they're... it's just weird. It's weird, and I'm interested. Yeah, so weird aside, this looks like a fun one, definitely worth watching for the kiddos. That, though, is the end of TV streaming. And that was your TV streaming for this episode. There is, again, a much longer version of this where we do all of the sections all in one. You can find that by following the link in the description. Or if you're not on YouTube, then go check out generallynerdy.net, youtube.com/generallynerdy, or patreon.com/generallynerdy. Or if you're on the social medias, you can find the Nerdy Ninja associated with the name Generally Nerdy, and that's where I'll be. So again, thank you very much, nerds. We're going to go now. But before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.